I'm Quinn Ewers.
My name is Asia O'Neill. I'm Shay Hawley. And Rory Harmon.
My name is Marcellus Moore.
My name is Rodney Terry.
I'm Coach Sark.
My name is Sam Hurley.
This is Casey Kane.
Hi, we're Texas Women's Tennis, and you're listening to Longhorns.
Welcome back to Between the Horns. Today's guest, he's not an athlete, he's not a coach, but truth be told, we wouldn't have any athletes or coaches here without him. Our guest for today is the Vice President and Lois and Richard Folger Athletics Director, none other than Conte. We're so excited to have you on, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. So there's a lot of different places that we could start with your story, but I wanted to start at the very beginning. Did you envision yourself here today at the beginning?
Not a chance. It is the wildest dream. From where I grew up to think the idea that I'd be the director of athletics at the University of Texas and representing Lois and Richard Folger in this position is, you can't imagine it. Not even in, the best of dreams.
What did you want to do?
Had no idea at the time. When I was a little kid, I grew up in a children's home. You were just trying to, get day by day. Sports was not something that when I first got involved in sport, it was to become popular. You're living out 30 miles out of town. You don't see it. It's way before cell phones, before the idea that when we went home for the summer, I didn't see anyone until I came back to school. And when you're in the situation I grew up in, you were never going to be popular. All of a sudden, one of our students at the ranch went out for sport. He got a prom date, and I was like, I want that. Whatever he was on, I want to have a sip of his coffee. So it's to see the journey that we've been on as a family is not something that I thought possible.
And what sport did you gravitate towards first?
I was a football, basketball guy. You played all three, right? I'm in that era where you played football, then you played basketball. In the spring, you played baseball or track, and I did track and field. All my friends were doing baseball. I tried out for the baseball team, went to catch a curveball, and it hit me right in the nose. I'm like, that for sure is not for me. I'll try that. Yeah.
So what led you to UC Santa Barbara?
Out of high school, I went to Oregon State, which was a phenomenal opportunity. I was running track there, and then my sophomore year, they dropped the track team. In the mid-'80s, a lot of states were going through how they're going to incorporate Title IX into their programs. And back then, the quickest thing and the easy thing for a lot of schools to do would drop men's sports, add women's sports. And very fortunate that Sam Adams at Santa Barbara gave me an opportunity to get a scholarship and go finish my career at UCSB.
Absolutely. And when was the moment that you realized, this is this path, this trajectory is kind of the role you kind of wanted to be and, stay close to the game without, being the athlete or the coach?
I think it's a accumulation of things. One, growing up the way I did, I think sport played such a big part in the opportunity to become, like I said, popular. I think that sports, it doesn't care how rich you are, how poor you are, color, race, creed, religion. They just let you play. And if you're good, you can bubble up. And I love that opportunity what sport provided. At that time, when they dropped the sports at Oregon State, I just didn't quite understand what Title IX was. I thought it was a little bit like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Finished my degree at Santa Barbara, and a house parent at the ranch left and became the team doctor at Washington State. And he called and said, what are you going to do? And I kind of didn't really have a good answer. He goes, I'll get you a job in the maintenance department. Why don't you go to grad school until you figure it out? So I went to Washington State. I finished my master's degree, started working on my doctorate degree, and I was still working in the maintenance department. And I go, I think I had to do this. And just kind of fell into it.
What are some of the qualities that you acquired during your upbringing that you think have made you so successful or such a great leader today?
My parents were the ones that started this children's home. They were. My father was worked for Catholic. He was going to be a priest. Met my mom while they're in Mexico. They fell in love. Decided this was going to be their calling, is to have figure out a way to help disadvantaged youth in their life. And they started this children's home, and it was in Mexico, and they took it to New Mexico. And I just kind of grew up in that being. My parents were always ones to say, it's never about you, it's about everyone around you that you can help. And My father always say, you be honest, you be humble, and you serve others. And ironically, when I was looking at this career, I had to go to him and say, Dad, his whole goal for us was to serve humanity. And I said, Dad, this is what I'd like to do. And I explained what it was and what sports can do for you and how it affected us. And he said, okay, and gave me my blessing. So I think him understanding that as a young person, it was always about everyone around you, not yourself. And if collectively you can have this opportunity, like in sport, what I love about sports, it's not about I, it's about we. And if collectively you can have this we opportunity, great things can happen. And I just kind of fell into that, and his teachings, how he raised us, being here today, having many kids I grew up with at the ranch get to partake in this opportunity. It's comedy. Then I'm here and they'll call up. You're not going to believe it. They think they're the director of athletics here. Right? You're in charge. How about it? So they get access to whatever they want. I'm excited for them.
Yeah. Are there any people that grew up with you at the ranch that are here at the university?
No, but Jeremiah Donati, who was at the director of athletics at TCU, it was his father that got the job in the maintenance department. And at that time, I worked painting fences, delivering tickets, selling tickets, whatever you could do to get involved. And I was always outside looking in, but he's the one that gave me that opportunity. Knew the AD, and then I got my first job at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And Jeremiah's father ended up being my dad's best friend. He goes, hey, Jeremiah wanted to get in the business, but he was 13 years old. He went with me for the summer videos at Cal Poly, and every stop along the way, he was with me everywhere I went. And then when the job came open at TCU, it was either you hire Jeremiah or he's going to come with me. And the good fortune is he got the job. So he's really the only one that's intimately involved. The rest of my brothers and sisters are either working for the UN, they're working in county or services that support young people or in our society. That's their job. They think I just play around.
And I mean, they may see it as playing around, but truth be told, this school and this place has provided a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. And you've provided opportunity for me myself. And something that you've always emphasized is learning every aspect of everything. And with you starting in maintenance to now being the vice president and athletics director, did you learn things in maintenance that have helped you today?
Well, for sure. I think the issues is there's so many more people that are involved in an athletic program. There's a lot of credit is given for the position, but really it's the staff and it's everyone else involved that makes the enterprise work. Being in the maintenance department was phenomenal because I got to see everyone below this that was just working their tail off for the love of the institution and for the love of sport, and necessarily not a paycheck. But they just loved what they were doing. And I was like, okay, but now I realize that they're the professional in their job. I don't espouse to know what's going on there every day. They run it. When I say we need to fix this out, I know this is our problem. They're the professional. And you allow them to be the boss of their area, and you just come and talk to them and say, okay, here's what I'm struggling with, or any facet of our organization. I think the job itself, from outside looking in, gets a lot of credit, gets a lot of blame. Yet at the end of the day, it's the people that make it work. And the fortunate thing for me is starting at the bottom up, I got to see how every facet works. I may not know it in its entirety, but I can tell you what happens there. And that was the blessing to me.
And as you rose through the ranks, I think one thing I really love about sports too, it's constantly evolving. The way some games are played to even, they're consumed. So for you, how do you stay on top of, not just on top of trends, but how are you a trend starter? Because a lot of things around Texas, around game days and experiences have been shaped by kind of you spearheading those.
Well, I think one of the things you have to do is put your ego aside. And I'm a big fan of R&D, rip off and duplicate. Right? I will constantly, I'm sending Drew Martin or Kane Hyde, this is what some schools doing. Can we incorporate that, what we're doing? We're going to go to Alabama this weekend. I'll get there early. Drew will get there. Kane, I'm already giving them their assignments. I want you to see what they do in-game. Someone tell me how their food is. Tell me how they do productions. I look at their tailgating, everything they're set up, and said, what can we bring back to us? At the same time, we looked at Disney when Disney does. I went to the state fair and said, we had to incorporate some of that stuff in our venues. We just have a really wanted staff that will say, let's try things. Like this past weekend, we tried orange smoke. It would have been better at night, but the orange smoke smells god-awful. It's like burnt eggs, and their eyes are burning. I'm like, this is going to be great at night. The light show, all these things. You just try to look at things that create. We're asking people to come spend the day with us, and it's their discretionary income that they're spending on our student athletes, on our institution. We got to give them the very best experience that we can, and we can't dictate what goes on in the playing fields. Those are 18 to 22-year-old kids trying their hardest. But can we then come in and give them an experience that go, you know what, I love this institution, and I had a great time, and I'm going to come back next week. So that's why we're constantly evolving, constantly thinking things. So to me, any idea that someone has, try it. If it doesn't work, I'll take the blame. Just not make the same mistake twice, right? But we want our staff to be inquisitive. We want them to be tenacious, but at the same time, they have to be willing to make mistakes because it's the only way it works. We try things constantly. Like maybe the naked eye doesn't see it, but we're like, oh, that didn't work. Do it again. But if you're doing that and you have that ethos in your system, great things can happen.
Speaking of staff, I mean, one of the roles in your job is that you hire a lot of these coaches here. And when you're working with personalities such as like Coach Sarkeesian or Coach Terry or whatever it may be, what are the qualities that you're looking for in a potential new candidate?
In my opinion, I think that at the University of Texas, you're going to hire people that have been successful. And you know that already. And then you really focus. They have a great resume. But then you better focus on, are they great for our culture? Because you can go out and hire this guy that has a phenomenal record, but if he's not a good person, doesn't treat people well, that's difficult. Because then all of a sudden it just doesn't have any chance to be successful. When you look at our long-standing coaches, whether it be Coach Elliott or Eddie Reese or Coach Fields, they've been here for a long time. They're great coaches, but they're better people. And that's what you try to infuse yourself on is that. And number two is, this isn't for everybody. You know, at the University of Texas, to take an adage from the Bible, David Goliath will never be David. You're going to have to learn how to embrace this enterprise. Every time we take the playing fields, you're playing Texas. It's not like you're ever the underdog. So you have to learn how to operate in that. And I think that's one of the things that I love about the saying in the baseball stadium that we took everywhere is the winning traditions of the University of Texas shall not be entrusted to the timid nor the weak, because it's not for everybody. And we know we're sitting in our room right now with all the social media. Right now there's 1.9 million people talking about the Longhorns right now. Think through that. That's a crazy number of people on social media having a discussion about who we are. 1.9 million people having a discussion about us. That is a lot of pressure in itself. And to our coaches, I just say, you know, we have great people. You do the very best job you can. And my job is to hire people that can embrace and understand what it means to be a Longhorn.
What does it mean to be a Longhorn?
To me, two things is you have to embrace the enterprise. Success is what we demand. And I get that along the way, we may not be as successful as we want to be, but we've won 2 back-to-back Directors' Cups. Last year, we, if it wasn't for Mighty Geese, we would have won our 3rd, you know. But every one of our programs, we just came from a head coaches meeting just about an hour ago, and we talk about, Eddie Reese got up and talked about training and what it means to make sure that we're training our young people. Because today, different than when I grew up, social media, they're reading everything. You say they're not, they're on it. You say coaches aren't reading it, they're reading it. And when you're running an enterprise based on passion, the most rational people that you know become irrational when it comes to their passion, whether it be a coach, whether it be a student athlete, staff, donors, everybody. So you're just trying to manage that process the very best you can.
Got it. And for you, I think when Longhorn fans think of CDC, there's never a moment where we feel like you're wavering at all. You always, have a direct line, always make everyone around you feel comfortable. So when you stepped into this role initially and, took on this position, did you feel pressure?
It's interesting, good question. I think when I first got the job at Rice, I got up the keys, and all of a sudden it's my turn to be the AD. I was 36 years old, and I thought I needed to have all the answers. I'm in charge now, hear me roar. And I realized I had turned into something that I wasn't. I'm like, what am I doing? You ascended to a position, you earned that right, yet you're trying to be the boss of everything. And I remember right about 6 months into it, David Saylor, who's now the AD of Miami, who was with me, and he came in and said, hey, boss, you're applying a little too much Ben Gay here. You need to back off, let everyone do their job for them, and we're going to be great. And I didn't realize I was doing that, but I was trying to show myself that you can do this. And that was that was a really good learning lesson from him. Number two, I remember years ago, people said, you need to be this certain way in order to get this job. And I tried it for a little while, and I was not myself. I felt like you better just go back to who you are, and if you're truly true to yourself, you will be successful. But you'll look at other people and say, boy, if I emulated him, no, just take parts of what that person does so you can put in your toolkit, but never lose sight of who you are. And those are two things that happened along the way. So when I got this job, I knew the gravitas of Texas. I wanted to see if I could be successful here in terms of how we try to do it. And very, very fortunate that I worked for an incredible guy in Jay Hartzell. The president has just big, audacious goals. He's constantly trying to say, how do we harness Texas? And he inspires us daily to try to make sure that we live up to what starts here changes the world. And that is across not only here, but you see what he's doing bringing MD Anderson to Austin. Those things are just big, audacious goals that the president has. Us going to the SEC and having that alignment between Chairman Altife and President Hartzell, we're in really good stead.
How do you measure success?
In a variety of ways. I think when you look at the end of the year, we are going to measure success by wins and losses or wins and championships. That's easy. A lot of times I'll measure success. My favorite day for me is graduation. Because in my core, I firmly believe you change someone's life through education. It changed mine. In my core, I think if you give young people, they've learned their emotional intelligence from how they were raised. A coach can influence a child more than you ever thought possible. They believe in a child when the child doesn't believe in themselves. That's a coach. And when you see those student athletes doing amazing things on the field and graduating at the highest rates and going on and doing incredible things, that's success. But we measure on wins and losses, and I understand that too. So we're always wanting to win everything that we do, but that doesn't mean that the other things don't matter. So success to me depends on what department it is. If it's in compliance, we're following by the rules. If they're in development, out raising money and selling to the University of Texas, that's great. If it's marketing our product, if it's Kate Hyde and what he does with social media. So we all are graded on different things, and the aspects are completely different. And we know coaches, they're here because they're great coaches and they get the very best out of kids. So every area of success is different.
Stacey, how do you manage to, I guess, split your time between things? Let's say it's a typical football game day. What are you spending time, I guess, even thinking about?
It's funny. It depends on what it is. I get here, say it's, we always get here at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I walk the entire stadium. We walk every floor. We make sure every bathroom is clean. We're welcoming 100,000 people to Austin, Texas, and to DKR, Memorial Stadium. So we want to give it the very best experience possible. Then once that is done, I go home and shower, and I come back and we look at what's going on with the rest of the outside of the stadium, check in with everybody. And then at the end of the day, up until game time, you're being pulled in 1,000 different directions. But I try to get everything done before the game starts. And what I mean by that is making sure that our staff is set in place, that we're the very best position to have a great game day experience. We don't have anything to do with what's going on the field, right? But everything around it we can control. And this is where I'm really hyper-focused on customer service, creating a great day environment for young people and for our fans, and then at the end of the day, providing all the resources to our coaches to be successful.
When you're in a position like yours and you're at a game day, are you even able to enjoy the game knowing that you're thinking about a million other things at the same time?
Man, I do hate games some days. Some days I just want to sleep and tell me did we win or lose. Because in football, every game is so critical. I mean, it's like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. What happened here, there, and you kind of forget that they're just young people, that they're trying their hardest, and you're like, you can find yourself just, what was that play call? Or what has happened here? Realize, they're good players on the other side too. So the emotion of the game, I do not like it. It drives me crazy. But watch a volleyball game. I don't miss a home game for any of our sports. I go to every single sport. I watch them and I cheer for them. I love being there. But we're at a soccer match against SMU this past weekend. It was like they knocked us out of the tournament last year. And to see how the kids just, I think it was 5-0. They just poured it on them. And their emotion was fantastic. But 2 weeks, we're playing an LSU game and two goals get called back and you're just ready to go, what? So you can't get too high or low. So I just kind of sit there and just seethe inside or have elation inside. It drives me crazy. Like Pepto-Bismol on overdrive.
Do you ever feel the need, or do you feel like the game you originally grew up with, like because you worked in this space, it's pulled away of some of the enjoyment from it? Or do you ever feel like the need to reignite that passion for it?
No, I think that we're playing a game. That's the joy of the game, is young people are getting to play their game and get a free education. So we can't lose sight that the donors and our fans are providing an opportunity for young people to get a free education and play the sport they love. So I find great joy in that. The difference now is the social media, the pressures of instant gratification or sadness or vitriol comes so quick. Back in the day, I think we were the last line that had a community party line. You guys don't even know what that is, but it was wild. So we had shared telephone lines, and we were, where the ranch was, you had all these hippie communes around it, and it was just different. If you messed up, you had like a week to get your act in order before anyone found out. You know what I mean? It was just different, right? And then sports were covered, but they were covered regionally. Right, I never saw a college game until I was in college. So college was so foreign to me that way. Didn't have an opportunity to. It was just not something that I grew up in. At the time, we had 3 TV stations, and we didn't have TV at the ranch. We watched Animal Kingdom is what we could get on Merle Olsen on Sundays. Merle Olsen. Y'all don't even remember who this is, but I'm telling you.
No idea.
In the 70s, he was rocking. I'm telling you right now. That and on the bus drop on the way to school, Paul Harvey. That's pretty much how you got your news or your entertainment.
When you look back to yourself, that may have been the 17-year-old boy at the ranch. What do you wish you could tell him today?
What's interesting is it was always what my father always said too. Just be true to yourself. I think today it's different. It's such harder for young people. They're living in such a instantaneous society where the emotions are different, and I'm so grateful I grew up without it, because now I can sit there and say, wait a minute, you don't know that person, and I have 2 kids at school and they struggle all the time with what is this swipe, that swipe, and they're like, what are we talking about? Makes no sense, but that's the society you two grew up in. And I think as evolution happens, it's like the other night I was going home. Have you seen those cars around town that have no drivers?
Yes, the cruise.
Yeah, drives me nuts.
They're everywhere. Never hit one?
No, for sure not. But I took a picture of one, and I'm like, 50 years from now, I'm going to show my grandkid. I knew when. It's like Kitty Hawk for the airplane. 1912. You're going to go, wait, what? And cars started in 1910. You can take a picture of a driverless car. It's coming.
And you can ride in them. They'll take you wherever you want to go.
It's pretty good.
I don't know it. But they're here, right? So I think when you start to look at just, when we had a cell phone, that was news to me. We had a one line. If you asked a girl on a date, it was tough. It was in person. Now it's a swipe. Are you in or not? What is going on? It's wild. You guys, I'm like, I asked one of my daughters, did you ask her? No, Dad, he just kind of DM'd me. What are we talking about?
It's the norm for us.
It's the norm for you all. dudes have no game nowadays. You know what I mean? It's all on social media, yada yada. Back in the day, you get rejected right in front of you. No, you had to leave and go home. Whew, that was a tough one. Just face it head on. Difficult.
And for our student athletes now, from your perspective, how do you, when they come in, like, get them to understand and kind of create separation, create, not only additional mental toughness, but giving them, training on, the social media side, kind of, telling the coach or helping the coaches along with that acclimation process of being on the Texas stage now?
Well, it's interesting because I think that was more applicable, say, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now you all are coming on already you were born with a tablet in your hand. I think it was a bottle and a tablet, right? So it's just different. So I think one of the things we look at here with our Forever Texas program is just saying, okay, it's not personal. That's a tool to accentuate your brand, but the visceral, whatever you're hearing, you don't know that person. It's not personal. But that's hard because you grow up with, when I was growing up, if you had a little scuffle, it was usually taken out back to the schoolhouse. You knocked it out. Now it's all played out on national media, and you have, I would say our country's not, and it's been so divided, they say, but it's always been divided. What's what makes this country so great is that you have a chance to have an opinion on a subject matter, but now the subject matter may be you, and it's instantaneous, and that's the hard part.
Well, I know me and pretty much every other Texas athletics fan sees you all over Twitter, you're all over Instagram. I mean, you are active on social media. And I saw that you got your start at Rice in 2006. And my question to you is, when you started at Rice in 2006, was that a part of the job?
No, you mean social media?
Social media.
Let me run some by.
At all?
I'm gonna owe it to my friend who we're gonna play this weekend. I was not on it. I thought, boy, I'm not doing that. Greg Byrne, who's one of my dearest friends, AZ at Alabama, he goes, "Why are you not on this?" I don't know. I just don't think so. And he goes, "No, you should get on it." Well, as soon as we opened the floodgates, I couldn't help it. And then I'm like, and that became my, I'm just so much into the idea that if this is a way for us to connect to our fans and own when we mess up, give praise to others when they do a great job, and then always being customer service friendly because they're the ones that are allowing us to have this opportunity. The intent was, he was just saying, you ought to see it when it goes on. I dove in a completely different way, and now he's completely off it. He said, I'm off it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because what happens is, when things hit you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? Because I'm off it now. And I'm like, I'm still doing it. It's crazy. So, yeah, but he's the one that started it, and that was comedy. I was like, I'm not doing that, and they've been going for about 4 or 5 years. So yes.
As it's kind of evolved, since you're like one of the primary spokespeople of this university, how would you think about, I guess, your own personal brand? And I think something personally I'd love to know is, where do you get your suits? I've never seen you in a bad suit.
Well, I never looked at it as a personal brand on social media. What I looked at it for me was, how do we make sure that we accentuate what we're doing as an enterprise? As far as clothing, it was interesting. My father, at the beginning of the year, we would get 5 pair of pants, 5 pair of underwear, 5 pair of socks, 5 shirts at the beginning of school. And he would we'd get to the bus stop. He goes, you know what? You're going to be judged right away on how you look. How you look is how you're going to be judged. It's just how society is today. And we're at the ranch, and we may or may not have all the tools that you have. But by God, when you get on that bus and you get to school, you're going to make a first impression. And we would all we'd get at the bus, but all right, and of course, when we grew so much, I always had these lines on the bottom of my pants because I was going faster than my pants. This is ridiculous. You would not know this, or you'd make them into shorts. But the idea was, what does that impression do? And as I got older, I just always remembered that you represent something more than yourself, and your first impression of someone is how you look. And it's not shallow. It's the fact that you're going to be judged by that. I think we all do that. You see someone that comes in unruly, it's man, they may be the greatest person, but you already have something about them. Let's make sure that whatever they see about you, that they see this gives them the very best impression.
A question that we always ask athletes when they're in this seat is who are the people in their lives who have gotten them to the point that they are today? And for you, you seem to talk about your father a lot. But who are some of the other people in your life, other mentors in your life?
Mentors come from all over the place, age or not. I mean, it'd be my father, Dr. Donati, Mr. Livengood, the AD that took the first chance when Rick Dixon's another AD. But Logan Edgerson is one of my role models. When we were going through civil unrest, I would call her and just say, I need to talk to you. Tell me what you're thinking. I don't have all the answers. Or it could be Jay Witt. I would, hey, Jay, tell me what has happened. So I don't look as mentorship as age, as mainly as can you listen to what someone's going through? They can pour something in you that you can have a perspective. And that to me is, so I've had tons and tons of what I would call mentors along the way. There are things that I don't have to have the answer for, but age does not equate to having knowledge. You can be, you have these kids that graduate 12 years old from Harvard. No. But when you look at things that are happening in their lives, kids I grew up with the ranch are great mentors because I'll say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And she'll, oh, here's an idea. So I don't think, so I have tons. But in this campus, there's a lot of our student athletes I'll visit with at lunch and go, okay, or ask them a question. They'll provide an answer that I wasn't even thinking, that I'm like, wow, okay, I see where that person's coming from.
Yeah. And looking back now, what are some of the qualities of yourself you think allowed so many people to gravitate towards you, take that chance on you?
I think one is you got to work your tail off. I mean, I'm one of those things that nothing was given. So just, my old man used to always say, if you work really, really hard, they're going to judge you for that. 2, be honest, be humble, and serve others. If you make it about you, all of a sudden your ceiling will stop somewhere. If you work really hard, you prioritize that you're going to be judged by your work. Then, then say, okay, because all of a sudden we judge everything by everything around it, right? But if your word's your word, if you're humble and not make it about yourself, and you serve your better group of your around, then you have a chance to be successful. But today we're in this I and me. I just never bought into it. I don't see how that works. It didn't work but for some people it does. But I just think at some point in time, the collective we is a lot better than the collective I.
What's your advice to student athletes who are considering Texas? What type of athlete should come to Texas?
Texas isn't for everybody. You have to be really, really good at your craft. And when you get here, there's going to be 10, 50 people better than you. You have to be willing to put in the work to be the very best. And that's what attracts people to Texas, is that they want to be challenged, that they want to be the very best. A lot of people say they want to be the best. But when they get here, are they prepared for the challenge and the work that it means to be the best? And I think that's what makes a coach great. We have great coaches, and they see things in kids they don't see themselves. But a lot has been given to kids, and all of a sudden a lot of adulation. And when you come here, you got to work through that and work through the hard parts of it. And if you're willing to do that and give yourself fully to the opportunity, you can have great success.
And CC, you signed a contract extension to 2030, so excited you'll be here with us. Now thinking about what are some of the top of mind initiatives for you moving forward and making this university even better than it already is?
Well, I appreciate the recognition of the extension. That's just can't thank Chairman Eltife and President Harshel for the belief in what we're doing, because that's really a reflection of our entire staff, right? And that's just awesome that they see the hard work putting in between our coaches and our staff, and for them to do that was pretty remarkable. 2, I think this year is we have to focus on the last year in the Big 12. This is a year that we know we have a move, so everyone's kind of looking to the horizon, but we're really trying everything we can to focus on the here and now, where your feet are. Our coaches are really, really grounded that way. I think all the media around it, the noise, I can't wait. Well, let's compartmentalize that. But we're always going to have, that being said, we're looking at the new football indoor practice facility. We know we're going to have that starting in June. We have every coach has always a wish list of what they need to be successful, and we have to continue to do that. And our donors have been great in buying into the vision of what we're doing. But the here and now is, we have 20 opportunities to win 20 conference championships. Last year we won 12. The year we won 13. We won 2 national championships last year. The year we won 4, and the year before that I think we won 5. So we're always just trying to make sure, can we compete and win? We have 20 opportunities. We're hoping to go 20 for 20. We have 20 opportunities to compete for national championships. So that's why you come here, is for that opportunity. And our goal is to be a top 5 program in every sport. We're not unabashed in saying that. And if you believe in that and you fund to that way and you surround yourself with people who have the common goal of that, you never know what's going to happen, but you should never be afraid of that.
You've been here since 2017. You've been promoted to 2030, okay? That's a long time to be here at Texas, but we love it. What's been your favorite memory thus far?
Favorite memory? Whew, there's so many. I mean, they all stick out. It depends. I think some of my favorite memories have been just people that had bold initiatives that took chances, that they were successful. And to that was great to see. And then you go across the board, whether it be winning a national championship or winning a conference championship or getting the Southeastern Conference. Every one of those things are special. And then we'll talk about a guy that struggled through school every single year, but then graduated. And we'll say, oh boy, that kid had a 4.0. That kid graduated. That's what's awesome. So I think, I don't have a specific memory, but I'll look back years from now. I think the emotional attachment that you have to kids, and when a kid says, man, we always celebrate these people that have these great GPAs or this championship. You have people that just fought back through an injury and were able to compete. That's awesome for that kid when he thought it was over. Or a kid that just struggled academically the whole time, but graduated, and to see him on that stage and then here and gives you a big hug and he puts on his T-ring and goes, I didn't think this was possible. Those are like cool moments that you'll always remember, right? And it's the people that you'll remember long after the celebration ends.
See, so you're not the only Longhorn in your family. Your 2 daughters, one graduated from here and the other one currently attends here. So what has been, I guess, almost sharing this experience and kind of having direct your harshest critics, if you will, in terms of, Dad, what's going wrong, what's going right, for like the athletics department. What has that experience been like?
I'm so glad they're here, but I'm sure they hate it half the time.
I mean, I know the experience. My dad was a football coach while I was in high school, and you do definitely have that extra eye on you at all times. With you, did you want you wanted their college experience to be their experience, essentially?
Oh, for sure. I wanted them to go where they want to go to school. But you know what's happened? When we came here, I didn't know if they were going to go to Texas or not. And they've loved their entire experience, and it's been great. And don't get me wrong, they've had a good time here. It's just that they've had added pressure for themselves that I don't think, sometimes I worry about that a little bit. But they've, they grew up in Fort Worth. And we moved one daughter, she was a senior in high school. And for her, I thought it was a struggle. She embraced it. She's resilient. And my other daughter was like, yeah, Dad, this is awesome. Let's do this. So I'm very fortunate they're here because I get to share with them. At the same time, the outside stuff makes it a little bit tougher for them. So.
Final question for you today, CDC. What makes Texas elite?
People make it elite. From our president to our deans to our provost, faculty. That's what makes it elite. And then you have the most brightest students. Every student here is the top 6% in their high school graduating class. If not, they're the top 2%. So you just have elite students, an elite faculty, and an administration that espouses to be great and lives up to the motto, what starts here changes the world. That in itself creates this unbelievable sense of competition across the board because you got to live up to something greater than yourself. And I think for a lot of people, when they get here, they think they've made it.
It's just beginning.
It's just beginning. That's the crazy part about a lot of, and when you're here, you get around it, then you can see what's coming next. I think that for student athletes, we always tell them, you're the very best at what you do in your athletic craft, but across the street, they're the very best in their academic craft. And you have to know that every single day, everyone's on. And that's what makes this place just click, because they're surrounded by people that are espoused to do great things in all facets. So the people make it great.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Between.
Appreciate it.
Gotta off that,